Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And Andale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter film crew podcasts. And you can visit us on our website at www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com. This week, we watched Small Things Like These, directed by Tim Milans. In 1985, coal merchant Bill Furlong uncovers disturbing secrets in a small Irish town that's controlled by the Roman Catholic Church. This movie, this movie stars Cillian Murphy and Emily Watson. So, Dale, what are your thoughts about this film?
I don't know. I didn't know what I was gonna expect going into this movie, but Cillian Murphy. I'm gonna go for it anyway. One of the biggest takeaways I have is the rapid or the progressing so far of Irish cinema and Irish film that is now being distributed like globally, especially in the States. It's an amazing movement to see because then you also see a lot of these actors you've seen in other projects and you weren't aware they're Irish popping up like, oh, I know this person, blah 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 blah. It was really good and exciting to see. But yeah, this is an amazing picture. Cillian Murphy does an amazing performance as a man who's like wrestling between two thoughts and ideas. It's one of those movies that's basically talking about just because it's quote unquote legal doesn't make it right. And
Mhm.
this is dealing with the topic of the Catholic Church and a lot of the I guess the nuns or whatever particular running basically and taking like women who are usually ostracized from society like sex workers and like single mothers and stuff like that and forcing him to servitude, you know, which is like really topical. It's very like handmaiden-esque as far as it, but it's actually really real world example of it. And it's like I said, a lot of the cinema we've been watching so far, like in general, like it's been really topical for what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, happy St. Patrick's Day. Isn't that
Yeah.
funny that we
Yeah.
watched this movie on St. Patty's Day? Hilarious. But yeah, first of all, I just like love the Irish Renaissance we're having. So many Irish actors who maybe are new to our screens or newer to our screens or people who we've been watching for years and years. It does seem like there has been this like resurgence of like not only Irish actors, but Irish films, Irish literature. Like it just television. Like it's really, I love that we're in this moment. It's great. Um, But yeah, this is based on a book, and I read the book. I read the other book, Foster, that is written by Claire Keegan, who's an amazing Irish author. And she writes these like really small books, like maybe 80 or so pages of just like people showing kindness to others. And it's people who already don't have a lot, but they're still willing to like reach a hand out and help people in need. And I think another movie was made from Foster. I think that's on Hulu. I haven't seen that one, but this one I read and I was so excited when I heard that Cillian Murphy was going to produce a film based on this book. I was like, that's great because these books are fantastic. So I was really excited about this one. And he is just a great actor. Like he's just so amazing. Like, because he doesn't do a lot, but his face is so expressive that it kind of shows you and tells you everything that the character is thinking and feeling. And I think in terms of like adaptations, it's a pretty good one. Like I feel like all of the themes from the book were very much carried on into the film, and that this is a story about like a man who didn't have much. He lost his mother at a very young age, and someone was kind to him and took him in and helped him kind of find his feeding. And he was able to have this business, and he has a family now, and he's has all these young girls that he's a dad of, and he seems to be really content with his life. And then he starts to realize what's going on at this it's called like they're like houses for young women, but this was like a worldwide thing where like it first started off as like a Protestant thing where they had like these houses where women, like I guess on the edge of society, would be able to stay, but they would have to work without pay. Um, and then it became like a Catholic thing, but it was like in the US, it was in England, like it was everywhere. So I think the last one closed in like 1998 or something. Like it closed in like the late 90s. So for a really long time, there were just these young women who either had nowhere to go or their parents had sent them away to these houses and they were basically just being exploited completely by these religious organizations. And it wasn't illegal because it was a religious organization.
Yeah.
So, like, the state didn't feel like they had needed to interfere in that, which is insane, but honestly not surprising when it comes to the Catholic Church, no offense, but you know. So I was like, I hadn't read the book in a while, so I was like, I had forgotten some plot points. So it was interesting to see it again in in a visual form. And it really did hit me hard, like on a couple of levels, but just on the fact that like there's this man who is living in a small town, so like everybody knows who he is and like he knows everyone else. And the issues of like living in a small town is that you can't do anything without anyone else, without other people finding out and having
Yeah.
judgments on it. But and especially in the small Irish Catholic town back in the 80s, everything was so religious and so like you did not mess with these ladies. Like so it was just like he was really going against society. And this is a person who had worked to fit into society. In the book, I think his mom is a sex worker, or she used to
Used
be.
to be a
Yes, that's I think that's what happened. So like he knows what it's like to be um bullied, discriminated against because of his past. And the fact that like he worked so hard to have that kind of normalcy and then he sees what's going on and he's just like, yeah, no, that's not
yeah.
that's not okay. And like he can't save all of the girls and the women who live there, but he does what he can when he sees this young person who I think reminds him of his mom. I think she reminds him of one of his daughters, and I just feel like he's like, nah, I couldn't. If it was one of my kids, like I could not have
Yeah.
let them stay in this abusive situation. If and knowing that like if his mom got caught by one of these ladies and she would have also be in the same situation, I think it was just like too close to the chest for him to like turn his back and not do anything. And I feel like him reaching a hand out and like going against the grain was really just wonderful. I don't know. It's just such a more than like the political stuff of what this movie is saying and what's going on currently today. I feel like what really hits me is just like how much we need people like that, like people who are just kind and
Yeah.
people who are just like willing to like help others.
Just basic compassion. It's one of
Yeah.
those like he who knows it feels it kind of moments. Like you
Hmm.
said, growing up with his mother and like his mother was ostracized into their family, and luckily a wealthy stranger said no, okay, cool, you can work with me, and they're fine. And then she doesn't die by at the hand of like the nuns or whatever. She gets run over accidentally, but still, he understood her being ostracized because he himself, like you said, was bullied for it. Like his mom's washing his jacket as a kid, and she goes, "Oh, what is this?" And it's like I heard somebody was like bullying you and spitting on you, that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. Like he's well aware, and then he goes on, like you said, and overcomes whatever barriers that society put in front of him based on who he was. And it runs a coal business, delivering coal around the city and making money, and blessed with four daughters, five daughters.
Hmm.
And so that impetus, like people always say when you're for especially for guys, like, oh, this woman is someone's mother, someone's daughter, someone so and so. And he actually kind of lives it as, oh, what if this girl here at the time was my daughter? Especially after the lead nun makes a threat, oh, what, oh, your oldest daughter. Hopefully your daughters can still have an education here. Like, oh, you don't threaten my family now. So now now I was thinking of maybe ignoring it, but now you
Hmm.
went and said, oh, you talk about my children. And now I'm taking action. And at that point, when they're escorting him out the room, he goes and finds the girls. Like, if you need anything, run and find me.
Hmm.
So and then
Hmm.
the nun tries to coerce him with like a Christmas bonus, and then mentions it to his wife. And the thing is, his wife is also aware of what the the nuns are doing because she's like, oh, we should leave it alone and don't deal with it, which is another thing of sometimes in society you have people who are aware and are from who are also aware of the discriminatory practices, also still upholding those practices as well, refusing to rock the boat, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the more of Irish book like Irish literature that I read, the more that I realize how it was a very um insular country, like a very like n unless you lived in like a city, you really had this was like your situation. Like it was very like you have to live by a certain status quo
Yeah.
or else you will be ostracized from our community.
Everybody knows each
Um,
other and kind of
Everyone
thing.
knows each
Yeah.
other, even if it's not like super religious. I think the rule, and I mean that it was a very religious country. Like there were a lot of rules around like what women and men were expected to do. I think they hadn't passed like abortion rights for like until like very probably not recent, but like within the last, I want to say 20, 30 years. Like it was a very conservative place.
Yeah.
And so it kind of does make sense that the wife is not like interested in doing more than like being like, oh, well, I feel bad about that situation and not like trying to do anything further than that because they're trying to look after their family and stuff. And that's what they kept saying in the film. They were like, just look after your own family, just worry about your own kids, like just mind your business, basically.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of hard to mind your business when, like, just over the hill, like, women are being captured and forced to work. Like, it's really that whole scene, the whole sequence where he goes into the coal shed and he finds Sarah for the first time. And, he has a meeting with Emily Watson, who is terrifying. She is such a good actress. She's so scary. And also not Irish. She is British. And so she
Yeah.
does this is the second movie that she's done a really amazing Irish accent in.
God's Creatures was the first
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
she's fantastic. Um, but that whole sequence when they're like in the room and she's like talking to him over the tea that he does not drink, and then she kind of threatens not to accept his younger kids into their school, knowing that like that is kind of the only opportunity they're going to have for an education in this very small community is to go to that school. And for her to like threaten to be like, no, well, those younger kids probably won't be admitted to our school. And then trying to pay him off so he won't talk about the things that he has seen at this place. Awful. And then the fact that she tells the girl, I think, yeah, Sarah, that like, oh, take her upstairs, tell her to go to sleep, give her a nice meal. And then as he's driving away, she's like getting pulled out in the snow to go work. I was just like, wow, that is so devastating. Like it just hurt so much. The fact that like it doesn't even matter what she did. She did not deserve that. Like
Yeah.
none of
No.
the
No.
women there deserve to be in the snow before Christmas, like working. They didn't even have coats. They were just out there in like linen dresses and a sweater. Like, what is going on? So I was just like, so I didn't, and then what I love about the direction, I think that's why Tim, he did a really good job, is like as he's driving away after seeing those scenes, it's kind of like the sound is a little bit distorted and you're just hearing his breathing, like he's literally having a panic attack or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's such a great choice. And so in terms of like the direction of the film, I thought like it was very realistic in terms of how it was filmed. Um, and I love that we kind of returned to certain scenes, as like certain scenes were like maybe a foundation, and then like the scenes around it changes how you feel about like what you're seeing. So every time he walks up to his door and goes inside and he does the routine of like washing his hands and stuff, what it means in the beginning, just like showing you his routine, and what it means by like the end
Mm.
after he's experiencing this stuff where home doesn't even, I don't know, everything just feels like it's unraveling because internally he is struggling with this. Like, what should he do? Should he go and save this girl? Or should he just, watch over his family like everyone keeps telling him? Like, it just takes on a different meaning. And even like me seeing his daughters take a new meaning once I've seen Sarah in that coal, like being locked by the nuns or whoever in that coal shed, like everything that we kind of returned to with the house, it kind like between the house and then in that house, whatever that conservatory nunnery, whatever that is called, um, it just I don't know, it just completely broke my heart.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is awful. This is awful.
Yeah, like going in, like you said, like in the beginning when you see him washing his hands, you're assuming, oh, he's a co-worker, he wants to get the dirt off. And then as the movie progresses, you see him washing hands, you realize it's a psychological thing. It's kind of like trying to wash the blood off his hands of this situation. And he comes to a breast like the last time where he meets her in the coal shed, where he's
Mm-hmm.
like scrubbing his hands so it almost bleeds. And then he's also remembering like he decides, oh, let me go see Ned, and and I think he was aware as well because he's a lot of the shots he's cutting back to is him interacting with Ned, and when the lady goes, "Oh, he sold the property, and you kind of look like him. Is he your father?" That kind of thing. Like we were kind of like he was. I
Mm.
think he was already there, but then what also aided in telling of that was him also watching Ned and his mother interact when he was younger as a kid. Him having that secondary, even with the loss of his mother, still having that secondary parental figure in his life to help him, which I also think I kind of now think the lady, the person his mother was working for, she wasn't really working for them. That was Ned's mother most likely, you know. That's my
Oh yeah.
that's how I put
Mm.
it in my head. But yeah,
Mm.
at least he still, even without his mother and the way she was ostracized in his own family, he still had another parental figure watching out for him, and realizing these girls have nobody. Like, you know.
Right. Right. Actively no one. Like, and the fact that it seems like everyone in the town knows what's happening
Yeah, because
and no one's doing anything.
the worst part of this is like the bar owner he goes to. Like the bar owner's like, "Hey, I heard something such for the nuns," which is weird because you'd think deeply Protestant, like Roman Catholic people, like, "Hey, temperance, no alcohol," but here the nun knows everything, and the nun's business is fine. Like, come on, really? That's,
Oh yeah. I think that's the thing about being Catholic. You can just ask for forgiveness and then it's not a thing anymore.
yeah. Oh, so that's what they gotta
Um,
do. They gotta enslave these girls, and we'll pray about it a couple times, and it's okay, that kind of thing.
that's what I found so, which I think was again great choice in terms of direction, but like and also just like in the script, the fact that like you're seeing the horrors that is happening at this homeschool, whatever you want to call it. And then the nun gets up like for one of their like pre-Christmas services, and she is the one who's speaking about love and kindness and temperance. And it's just like, how do you say these words and then know what you're doing? Like, what in your mind is
Yeah,
shifting where you don't understand that, like, if God is love, y'all keep chanting it, then why are you abusing these girls? Like,
yeah. And and not just that, the whole like you said, the direction, like the whole way that particular scene was like shot and lit, and it had, and especially once again, Emily Watson, like amazing job. The way she like delivers that, soliloquy, comes
hmm
off like very sinister and like perfect, like perfect acting from her right there.
hmm And it is so the way she like uses his wife in order to get the wife to kind of rein him in by she like saying like, "Oh yeah, I saw Sister Mary or Mother Mary at the church, and she's like told me that you got me something like manipulative to the nth degree. That's like true evil because she's like, I am moving pieces around to make sure that you stay out of our business. Like
Mm,
it's gross. It's like super, super gross.
yeah.
And I think that some of the survivors of those homes, I think they may have assisted in this movie.
Mm,
So like, or given some certain interviews and stuff that they used to help shape the film. But like, yeah, it's just like I can't believe that this stuff was like happening and nobody really was doing anything about it. I think someone like wrote an article about it or somehow it got out. No, like yeah, I think it got out in like the 90s because there was like a mass grave at one of these places, and they were like, okay, so what happened?
Yeah.
Why is there a mass grave here? It's kind of like Nickel Boys. It's like, what the hell were you doing?
How does this like happen
Yeah.
in society? Like, and the thing was, I know like you mentioned like how they were all happening globally. Like most countries ended this practice like the 1800s, you know, 1800 to 50, 853, 860. In Ireland, they were going on to like 1996.
Yeah.
Like that's like in my head, that's like yesterday. Like
Right.
for that long, and like they mentioned, like it's like centuries. Oh, centuries of women who don't exist anymore have just disappeared due to this, or people who were killed or silenced or punished who don't want to say anything about it because they still have fear of repercussions from what's happening. Like, and that's and you end that practice in 93 and people are still so psychologically scarred that they have difficulty talking about that their experience. That's like really damaging, you know?
Yeah. I think it's I think what's good about the book and also about the film is that you don't see all of the torture and the horror. You kind of see just like little glimpses of it, but it gives you enough of an idea to know that like this was awful.
Hmm.
It's kind of like in the zone of interest where you don't see the what's happening in the concentration camp. You just hear what's happening. But that to me is even more effective because it's like that's just your imagination going. Now you're just thinking about like what the horrors that are happening
Hmm.
just over the fence. And it's just like the horrors that are happening just over the hill. Like it's pretty effective. And so in a way, I kind of like when they don't show like just the graphic violence that happens, because that could be oh kind of hard to digest. And
Hmm.
sometimes it can be like, well, that's what you're just focusing on now. You might not be focusing on like the overall message sometimes if you're just like focusing on the violence. It's a choice. Like every director chooses like how they want to do that. But I did think that even in the book, because you're reading it through Bill Furlong's
Perspective,
perspective,
yeah.
you don't know everything. So you're only getting little glimpses. And I like that they translated that into the film because honestly, like women like just being like exploited and having violence against them has been so displayed over our history of film and television. So I think it's okay not to see
Yeah.
everything, but
And
like it was enough.
yeah.
It was
And
enough to be effective.
and you bring up something perfect. Like these are like you bring up dang, what was the first movie you named? Oh my gosh.
Oh, Nickel Boys,
Nickel Boys, and then the other
the zone
the
of
Zone
interest.
of
Yeah.
Interest. These are three movies dealing with like highly sensitive topics, dealing with oppressed individuals. But the perspective the movie takes and the stories it takes and the way they're shot have to do with who's engaging with the story. Nickel Boys, you're actively sitting with two boys who are experiencing this oppression. Like literally, they even do POV shots to put you in their sense. Zone of Interest, you're experiencing it from the interest of not just the perpetrators, but the people who benefit from it. The commander's wife, like her life and her family's perfect. Like there's no worries for her, but you're still aware what's happening on the side of the fence. Like, and then from this movie, you're dealing with somebody who's neither a perpetrator nor a person of actually being affected by it, but he's still impacted by it based on what he sees. And he doesn't even, and his triggering point isn't him seeing everything. He just sees one glimpse. And then from seeing that one glimpse, he's like, if they're doing this, what else are they doing? You know?
Hmm.
And I'm like, when you have stories like this and you're able to dissect the the person telling the story and also sell the story in that way, it helps it a lot. Because you could shoot this movie and try and include everybody's perspective. Like some movies might say, okay, we're going to show you everything the girls have been put through, you know, but at least they brought it like, okay, this story is from Bill's perspective. Like you mentioned before, him driving home in his car, in the truck, and then everything is getting quiet and you're hearing his breathing only. Like zoning you in on how this situation affects these individuals in the storytelling and the showcasing of it.
Yeah. Honestly, I think this film was great. It really it I think it's one of those movies where like it's not flashy, it's not giving you a whole bunch of like stuff, but it's so effective, like emotionally, it just really hits you. And I think that's what makes a great film, and I also feel like it was such a great adaptation of the book as well because that's exactly how I felt when I was reading the book. It was just like it just hits
Yeah,
in such a way where it's like, whoa, that this is really disturbing and sad and like because it's based on a true story, it just makes it even that like that much more salient, I think. But yeah, I thought this film was great. All the performances were fantastic, but especially Cillian Murphy and Emily
mm,
Watson, just
yeah,
absolutely fantastic. Like just
yeah,
great performances. I love that. I love watching amazing actors because it's like you don't even have to do much. And
nah,
like just the way their body language, how their tone, their facial expression. Oh,
yeah. Like we said, like Emily Watson, like her whole menacing presence in the picture, kind of very sinister, and her delivery and just her mannerisms. Like Cillian Murphy has been like everybody kind of figured out who he was at Peaky Blinders, but he's always been like a wonderful actor in those quiet
hmm
moments, who can express with their face or just an eye or just a look or just a tonal shift in their delivery of their dialogue. Where like even in the beginning where he's like talking to his wife, like, oh, I don't know. I remember getting a jigsaw puzzle, like those kind of his dialogue delivery, so amazing. It's a art that I think very few actors
yeah.
actually have. Like to be able to sell performances in silent moments and in like the quiet moments, and just have to use your body to like sell the expression. I don't think a lot of actors have that gift, but Cillian Murphy has that in spades.
hmm
So,
hmm So yeah, definitely worth the watch for sure.
what's time we have left? Don't want to tell me how much time I think we have about. So my recorder says we're at like 25, 20, almost 30 minutes. We got like 10 minutes left. Do you want to run through the news or
Maybe
you
we
want
could
to?
start.
Okay.
Start.
When the timer comes up, we'll just pause it then. Um, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Who was the last person who talked?
I think I was. But yeah, cool. All right. So on on to the news. First and foremost, y'all know how I'm a motorsports junkie. My boy Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari right now didn't have the best race, in Australia this weekend, but hopefully he can bounce back. But the F1 movie did trailer did release starring Brad Pitt. Um, I want your non-motorsports fan opinion of this trailer.
Oh, okay. I'm very excited to watch it, and I'm gonna watch it in IMAX
And that's
because it feels like it's built for that kind of
yeah.
when it goes zoom. I love car movies. I used to be a huge fan of the Fast and Furious stuff and Transformers. Like I used to love those movies back in the day.
Mhm.
So I'm a car fan of just like in movies, not in real life,
Adre-
not the action.
Adrenaline junkie on screen, not in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the Top Gun movies, even though I know it's directed by the same guy.
Yeah.
I didn't watch those because I have complicated feelings about Tom Cruise. But I am really excited to watch this.
Oh
This
yeah.
looks really good.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Been hearing about it from like last year before they even talked about it. Like they were shooting at literal F1 races. Like if you were F1 fan, you were on social media seeing them, Brad Pitt, and they like do the broadcast stuff twice with Brad Pitt in the scenes, and then when they actually had the broadcast, he wouldn't be there anymore, which is really funny to see. Like you said, they shot like the same team behind Top Guns behind it, which I think aids in putting, these race cars are not like NASCARs. It's little single seater. It's kind of the Top Gun shooting style works because it's a single seater race car for the most part.
Mm.
But it works like it's watching the behind the scenes stuff of making this movie like that's come out so far. Like a lot of the scenes are the actual other F1 drivers and teams, and the amount of cameras they have mounted everywhere for this movie, on the like they're like footage from the actual races. Like I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, I know that race. I know whose car that actually is. How they
Oh, that's
digitally
cute.
altered like the actual cars and everything to actually make it look like it's Tom Cruise or my homeboy, looks amazing. Of course, also my man Lewis Hamilton's involved in the production of it. Like when you tell stories about sports or any kind of industry, you do need to have somebody involved in that realm, involved in production. Because we've seen it
Yes.
happen plenty of times before where people who have no idea how that world works
Mm.
put a movie like, if you're once again a motorsport fan, you've seen Driven with, Sylvester Stallone, how bad that movie was, as far as selling IndyCar. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this movie. I'll be there day one in IMAX watching
I
this.
know you will. I know you'll. I know you were so hyped for this, and I'm hyped for it as well. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay, in other news, SAG-AFTRA has affirmed their support for DEI as studios back away. They affirmed its support for diversity, equity, and inclusion on Monday after several major studios walked back their commitments in the face of threats from the Trump administration. Those studios are Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Amazon, and Paramount.
Mm-hmm.
So Trump administration has sought to stamp out DEI programs in both the federal government and private sectors. So, okay. I have so many thoughts about this, but I'm glad that SAG-AFTRA, which is the union for actors, is every other um production department, like every other department on a production has their own unions, I think,
For the
or
most part, yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
So SAG-AFTRA is really for the actors. Um,
Actors, radio people, like
yes.
news
I think people in
broadcasters,
video games, yeah, I
voice
think they're
actors, yeah.
voice actors, yes,
Yeah.
they're covered by that too. So, um, they are standing by their diversity and their equity and their inclusion, which programs they had this kind of reimagined program that all the studios participated in. But that the ones that I had just listed before had backed out of under these new directives from the administration. And I feel like, I don't a part of me really doesn't understand what they like feasibly think is going to happen if they don't adhere to these um threats from Trump. I think one of the chief executives from like NBC got kicked out of their job. But what I'm thinking, but for like these other major studios, like, do they really think that Trump has or whoever his people are like can kick them out of their job as CEO? At these things that don't really, I mean, Disney owns ABC, so maybe they have a little bit more of a reason to feel some type of way about that. Because I feel like the ones that own like news stations, I would see how the threat for them is probably more enforceable because it's like the news constantly covers Trump. So it's like maybe, but then also you have other divisions of your company. So I don't know. But for the people like Amazon, like Jeff Bezos is just being annoying. Like, what's that about?
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna speak plainly. I'm applaud SAG for. I do think it's a bit of an optics thing because we are aware of the pay rates and the differences between black women, people Latino, like
mm,
in America, they're getting their due as far as on screen and stuff. So I'll give SAG for a pat on the shoulder of trying to push this, but still at the end of the day, it's up to studios to hire these talents. And if they decide we don't want a black actor for this role, they're not going to get cast. So it's face service no matter what. I think Donald Trump is the biggest DEI hire the country has ever seen. A multiple-time felon, a failed businessman who's currently he bankrupt the fucking casinos, about to bankrupt the country into a recession, but he's the leader of the free world, kind of in a way. People like they did a study, like even though he like won the election, like they did another study, like a lot of his supporters don't support him anymore because they realized, oh, we fucked up, but they're not gonna say it out loud. And they did a polling and they said like only 36% of Americans agree with Trump and are MAGA people. So like the other two-thirds of the country vehemently disagree with all this. So I don't know. And I think the studio side comes from mostly like the last couple of days Trump has been saying what he said CBS is, not patriotic, something to the effect, calling out, CBS, NBC, like a couple of them saying, "Oh, they're anti-American, and they're not patriots," those kind of thing. His rhetoric, but his fan base doesn't watch those news properties anyway. And this also comes with him, I think, trying to shut down Voice of America, which is like a non-profit government funded like press organization, like stuff like that. Suppression of That's literally suppression of information. If it doesn't tell you that we're slowly slipping into tyranny and fascism, I don't know what to tell you, but I don't know. I feel like the studio people, and this comes with in light of Disney coming out and currently trying to hide a lot of their queer focused stories or segments in their movies, a lot trying to like get Trump people and people who support them still on their side. Like majority of the country does not agree with these people. Still make the damn thing. Like I think they're being really pussified in the biggest sense of the word. Have
Yeah.
some balls, man. Like stand up. Like damn. So
Yeah, it's very it's strange because also something happened down in Miami when Miami uh someone in their government was trying to stop I think the Oscar nominated documentary No Land of Freedom or something like that. I forgot the title of it. But I think it won best documentary or won best it won best documentary
yeah.
at the Oscars. And they try to block it from being seen
Yeah, they
in
tried to block
theaters.
that's the Palestinian Israeli movie. They tried to that was
Yes.
trying to be blocked from being
Hmm.
screened in theaters. I know the Brazilian government, after having an authoritarian president in the past who was ousted, they tried to block I'm Still Here from being showcased as well. So yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely in a weird place because it's and it's very weird because when Trump was president the first time, like everyone still made the movies that they were gonna make. Like they still did what they were gonna do. Like none of this was like a thing. But now I guess because he owns more or he has more power in terms of like who he has in different high positions, maybe people are just like more afraid. But yeah, I agree. I feel like you don't like why are you so scared? Like you're not like make these films, make these television series. Like I don't understand why now people are so
Hmm.
afraid. And also like you've already done so much damage, these CEOs of these companies, like you've really just completely upended the way that the movie business works anyways
Hmm.
because of your decision making. And now you're doing this kind of crap. Like it's just, but to me, it's not surprising because it's like I know that y'all did not value diversity or inclusion or equity anyways. Like none of you guys did really. Like if we're
Hmm.
gonna keep it a buck, like
Yeah.
they did it because they were being yelled at on the
Or
internet. Like that's literally the only reason why they cared.
or when it comes to making money like Black Panther and Crazy Rich Asians. And then
Yeah.
again, once the Asian lead writer on Crazy Rich Asians was like, I want a pay raise. I want to pay raise on par with her white writers for an Asian centric story. They're like, F it, we're not going to make a sequel anymore. So,
Yeah. So it's like they never believed in it, at least, but they at least pretended like they cared at least 1%. But now it's like, okay, that's the thing with everyone who's like gotten rid of their DEI programs. It's very much just like you didn't value it in the first place, and that's why
mhm.
you were so quick to give it up.
Optics.
Yeah.
You wanted to kowtow like, oh, so everybody wants this, cool. Oh, only one third of the country is against this. All right, cool, we'll get rid of it. Like, and now those companies are being affected because you look at their bottom lines for a lot of these companies, their stock prices. Well, everybody's stock price is going down, but
Right.
they're losing money, comparatively to what they made before they started to scrap these DEI programs. So
It's like, okay, well, just know that this business won't survive without people of color, women.
yeah.
Like,
Which is weird
okay,
because in Hollywood, your oppressed voices are usually your most creative people.
right.
So
Have we not been screaming
yeah,
this for like
like
6 years?
artists every artist has some story that whether you're even if you're white, if you're every oppressed person's are you oppressed people make the best stories. Let's keep it frank, keep it a buck. Like if you never struggled with something, you cannot share a story at all. Like what do you have to showcase to the other world. Oh, your wife was perfect. Really? Okay, no one wants to watch that, you know. So
Yeah.
um sorry for that segue. We had a lot of stuff we wanted to get off our chest for a while,
It's
but moving moving on swiftly to more lighthearted fare. Ted Lasso, of course, is returning for a fourth season. Everybody has been slowly being confirmed to, return. Now Apple TV's actually also went on to perform. Like the show is, I've slowly seen clips of it last couple of years on like social media. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back and watch it now, especially with the announcement of the third season. The fourth season. I'm gonna go back and watch it now. Now Jason Sudeikis has announced that he will return. The rest of the cast, they're still not sure yet, which is weird. You really don't see a show that ended with a finale, like a definitive finale. Come back almost 2 years after. It's really really weird, especially coming back with the same fanfare. You know.
Yeah, I thought that the show had ended.
Hmm.
So I was confused when they said it's coming back for season four. I was like, oh, is it being like revived or something?
Hmm.
I didn't watch the show. I watched like two episodes of the first season.
Hmm.
So I thought the show was done. I did not know that it just had not been renewed yet. Like it was a conversation that was in the balance. I didn't know that. I thought it had just definitively ended.
Hmm.
So, okay.
I mean, we'll see how it goes because, like, I think from what I've seen and what I've read of season three, he goes back to Kansas where he's from. He goes back to America. But I think this
Oh,
one, they don't know if they're where they're focusing it. But Jason Sudeikis on speaking with former football athlete Jason Kelsey and his brother on their podcast, Travis Kelsey.
mm,
He did mention like the focus of the story would be on they're writing it, and he also said the official word is Ted is going to be coaching a women's soccer team or a women's football team. Don't know if that means American football or European or soccer, but the focus is he's coaching a women's team. So see how that goes. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't see it working well. Piggybacking off the last topic, I don't see how the people are going to take it with him coaching a women's team. So we'll
Well,
see how
Apple
that goes.
TV has kept their DEI, so
Yeah, so this is true. This is true.
maybe we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. What's our last news segment story?
Conan, and Sadie Sink.
Conan, yes. So Conan will be back to host, Conan O'Brien will be back to host the 98th Oscars next year. Um, did we talk? I feel like when we talked about the Oscars,
Mm,
I think that we had talked about Conan's job as host and how we felt about that. I thought it was okay.
mm,
Um, but I also said I don't want any more host for these
mm,
award shows. And obviously I was not listened to, which is fine. And the Oscars kind of does this where it's like if you do a good job once, you will continually be asked back for a couple of more years. I think the only person who didn't do it was maybe Ellen. I don't think she did it any more times after she did the first time.
yeah.
Or maybe I'm tripping and that's not true. I can't remember.
And I think Ellen was probably the weakest of the hosts. So
I thought she was
uh
fun.
I
She
mean
took a selfie with everyone.
I'm
They
not a
gave
fan of
pizza.
Ellen. I'm not a fan of Ellen. I'm sorry. No, she
This was
doesn't
before. Okay, so this was before she got exposed.
I was always
This was
never really a
years. This was years
fan.
before
But
that.
yeah, so yeah.
Yeah.
But so we'll see how that goes. Really happy for him. Like we've said before, like the Oscars need to change their host, and his format wasn't the typical. He was just basically, I'm telling jokes. I'm not here to MC the dang thing. Every presenter is still going to do what they want to do, so the format works. He's just adding some levity to it, along with other presenters also making jokes and lightening the mood. Like I said, it was a welcome change from Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know
Yeah, that's true.
how people find Jimmy Kimmel funny. I can't. I don't I don't like Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon. It's funny they're both named Jimmy. I don't find them
Mm-mm.
funny at all. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, I want like John Mulaney to host one of these award
Hmm.
shows. I want
Stephen Colbert, John Mulaney.
Colbert,
Yeah.
John Oliver. That would be insane. Like,
Yeah.
but I would, or John Stewart. Like, that would also be insane. But I would be on board for that.
Yeah.
Like, just someone completely irreverent who doesn't care about this stuff at all. That's who I want to host,
Yeah.
who has no investment in this and who just is gonna be up there and just
Like,
spitting.
or a person who actually has a hand in like that realm. Like we saw with the Tony Awards when Neil Patrick Harris hosts. Neil Patrick Harris like, look, I'm gonna put all my acting on the table, all my experience, and he goes, I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna dance, I'm gonna change costumes, and he embraces it. And I think that's also what's needed. I don't want to. I was sick of seeing like Jimmy Kimmel with his fake beef with Matt Damon. It ran its course. Like so good. This is
Yeah, I
over.
was like, no one cares about this except for you.
Yeah.
No one thinks this is funny except for you guys.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Awkward.
To one of the last two pieces of news. So Sadie Sink was announced for her role in upcoming Spider-Man 4, which Tom Holland has mentioned in the past that he wants to take his time with to actually, build and make the story to be the best it can be. But of course, it's been hard for a lot of Marvel talent to try and hide their involvement. We've seen, uh, Andrew Garfield vehemently pretend just to in an interview that be destroyed, of course, by Tom Holland himself when Zendaya mentions falling from a building. It's like, oh, that was cool to watch on set when they caught you, and he ruined it. But of course, Sadie Sink did an interview with Josh Horowitz. Her role still remains a mystery. Like, of course, she's not playing, MJ, which people were saying, oh, she played Elseworlds MJ, probably Tobey Maguire's daughter, you know,
Oh, that's cute.
or this time maybe Andrew Garfield somehow meets an MJ now his Gwen has passed and that's his daughter or that's his MJ. You never know how it goes. But so in the interview she kind of dropped a little hints, some like the a particular question asked was Josh Horowitz asked her, "Oh, what does she think of Jean Grey?" And she goes on to like, I know the character and it's great, kind of, and she thought the idea and the role, well, the meeting she had with Marvel was super exciting. So kind of most likely they're kind of trying to ease the premiere or the debut of the X-Men in the these upcoming Marvel properties, especially considering now that nobody knows who Spider-Man is. Him meeting an X-Men makes sense because they've crossed over in the comics, and even some other Marvel characters in the world think Spider-Man is a mutant. So it makes sense that, he would interact with them and suss it out. So when more information comes out as far as that Spider-Man 4 story, we'll get the full reveal of who she is. So
That's exciting though. I love that now that the X-Men are coming into um the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm because love the X-Men so much. So I'm like, I'm excited. I hope she gets the role. Like I hope she is actually Jean Grey. That would be so cool. But anyway, I forgot to mention that set photos from Chris Nolan's new film has come out.
mm-hmm.
They're filming in Greece, and
Mm-hmm.
Tom Holland was spotted in his character for the Odyssey, and so was Matt Damon. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting hyped for that movie already. I cannot wait. Cannot wait to see this movie. I have no clue. I mean, I kind of know what it's about, but like, I don't know what he's gonna
Oh,
do with
it's
it.
it's it's
That's
gonna
why
be
I'm just
it's
like,
gonna be a spectacle. Like
I'm so excited.
knowing the story of the Odyssey, knowing Chris Nolan, this movie about to be 3 hours long, but I will be
Yeah,
seated. Like
I will be sad.
I know we have issues with movies going kind of too long, but I think the issue with
Hmm.
movies being too long, it also depends on the story and the director
Who's
involved.
making it? Right.
Nolan, I will sit there for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 hours, 3 hours watching the Odyssey. Like I am perfectly fine with that.
I'm okay with it.
So our last piece of news, apparently Drake's label has filed a lawsuit to wanted the judge to dismiss Drake's, well, not Drake's label, Universal Music Group has filed to dismiss Drake's lawsuit against them and Kendrick over Not Like Us beef or feud or whatever, or his thorough trashing. And these are literally the words from Universal Music Group's and the motion they filed. This is the opening argument is, instead of accepting a loss like the unbothered rap artist he often claims to be, he has sued his own record label in a misguided attempt to solve his wounds. Plaintiff's complaint is utterly without merit and should be dismissed with prejudice. So yeah, even his label is like, look, Warner Bros. Is like, look, why would we do this and lose money on both ends? You lost, take the L, move on. And I love the shot they give is like he lost. He's trying to flick his. They even included one of his own bars in the opening in one of the statements saying, "Yeah, I want it all. That's all I. That's why I strive for it. This me, you'll never hear a reply for it." Drake. That's Drake's bar successful. Like you got your own distribution people taking shots at you because you just don't accept it. That's yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, says that really says everything about Drake. I feel like if I was him, I would just like go somewhere, go back to Canada for a while, just hide away for a couple of years and then come out with a new album. Like, I don't know, this display of like being really upset, being sad, like ranting during your concerts about how you don't got friends and like no whatever and like this bogus lawsuit, like honey, you're just doing so much right now and like you need to stop because it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. What didn't he make like a Valentine's Day album and he just takes shots at Drake the whole time? Like,
Who
no,
Drake wrote an
yeah,
album?
Drake. No, he doesn't take shots at Drake. Sorry, he takes shots at Kendrick. Like the four girls thing. Like, I mean, come on, dude, you
Yeah,
gotta
it's just
stop.
really embarrassing at this point. Like you are you need to
You're a
stop.
grown ass man. Like, really.
Yeah, like you look real plus plus. Anyway, anyway.
Anyway,
I have been rewatching that halftime show. It's great. It's just so good. Anyway,
Drake should sue you, not Kendrick. And
I know. Sue me. No, don't sue me. You'll get literally nothing. No
we'll
money.
get
Like,
clout from it though.
oh yeah, that's true. Okay, sue me. Let's do that. Anyways, let's watch what we've been watching.
Yeah, so surprisingly enough, like I'm finally watching Grey's Anatomy now with
Wow.
my friend group. I hopped in late for it. Like
Hmm.
they started like on season one. They're like I hopped in like season five. But like and like I think we're like last time I actually watched it with them. Like some days I just like I zone out and forget. I think we were on like episode six, and I'm like, oh, this shit is actually legit. Like, what have I been missing? Not watching Grey's Anatomy. So even as like as a group, they're going forward to watching other episodes. I'm taking my own time to start back from season one because I kind of know who is who, but I also want to know how they progress to be that way in season five. And like, dang, like, look, this is like one of the Game of Thrones thing where I didn't want to watch it because it was popular until I actually sat down and watched this thing. Like Grey's and like Sean, like, I want to see the shift in show from Shonda being there for so long to when she
Hmm.
leaves because I have heard that the tone of the show is was drastically different now to when it first was.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
I'm going back and like kind of like experiencing all those like viral moments, people are talking about like, like we watched when like I guess was it McDreamy was
Yeah, there's McDreamy and there's
um
McSteamy. There's both of
that's
them.
Patrick Dempsey's character like proposes
Mm.
to Meredith like and I'm like, oh shit, wow, okay, so I understand why people were going crazy for the idea of it and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
That's so funny. I stopped watching that when I was like 12,
See, don't
maybe
do
even
that. Don't do
younger.
that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
And
Don't do that. Don't do
it's
that.
still is it still
I
going?
think like on season like 21 now.
That's insane that that show. What? That's insane. That's an
20
insane
almost.
thing.
I was like shows like literally almost as old as me. Like, what do you
Right?
mean?
I'm like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah, so
it's pretty crazy. But I used to love all those shows. I used to love that house. I used to love like all of the doctory shows, but it's really gross. That's why I stopped watching it. Like when they show like certain things, I'm like, whoa, whoa. So I had to stop. But yeah, I used to love Grey's Anatomy. Um, I have been watching nothing new in terms of like new stuff. Like me and my friend, we're still trying to get through Paradise. I think I'm gonna have to give up on that one. And uh,
is it bad? Because I do want. I'm about to watch Parasite like as well.
I feel like maybe you'll like it,
Okay.
but there's something about the writing
Mm,
that I hate. I did not watch This Is Us, so I don't know. And I know the same person made This Is Us, made that show, and I haven't watched This Is Us. And I'm like, I don't think I could even get into it if the writing is like what it is in this show. It just is not for me. Like, I don't like that kind of heavy-handedness. I don't like that in writing at all. And even though the performances are really good because all the actors are really good, I think that, I don't know, it's just not connecting for me. But I think that, and the color grading is like messing with my eyes and I cannot watch it. But other than that, just because I don't think it's for me doesn't mean that I think it's like necessarily a bad show. I feel like other people might be into it. And obviously I'm watching Severance religiously. So this week is the last episode of the season and I love it. Like, I think about it every day. It's great. But in terms of anything else new, I haven't really been watching anything else new. I've been watching a lot of video essays. I watched a documentary about Frederick Douglass. That was interesting. But other than that, I haven't like watched anything new.
Yeah, for me, outside of Grey's Anatomy and like watching like the last Daredevil episode and having to rewatch the first two because my dad was like, "Oh, what's this? That's Daredevil." And then sitting down and watching
Your dad knows.
My dad I think I get a lot of my nerdy cues from my dad because he like mentioned before being a kid and like having comic books and like getting mad that his sister like sold them when he got older. So and like he's talking about like, "Oh, I had one of the original like Green Arrows. My sister, threw my comics away." So I do get probably a lot of my nerdy quirks from my dad. But yeah, I had to explain to him, "Oh, this is Daredevil, blah 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 blah." And he's like,
I heard episode 3 is really good.
Episode 3 is wonderful good. And I noticed something. It's really weird. Knock on wood. But of course, if you haven't watched, the story is about White Tiger, who is basically a Latin American superhero. And I found it very odd. Like, there are 2 cat-themed superheroes and they're both minorities, and they both died of cancer. Like, the actor who plays him or was in that role, if you've watched like All American, he was Coach Montez. That he died of cancer, and then Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, died of cancer as well, which I find really, really odd. Like, really, it's really eerie. Two minority heroes with cat motifs passing away with the same illness is
Okay.
Yeah. That was a somber note to end it on.
Yeah,
I apologize, but that thought
watch Daredevil.
That thought was in my. But yes, sorry. Watch Daredevil. That's right.
Yeah. All right. So that is it from us this week. We hope that you're all doing well and taking care of yourselves. Make sure to check out all of our social media. Support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Au revoir.